everything.
Yeah. Why I don't know why that person.
So why didn't you contact me?
But you were wrong.
And
nonetheless.
Here's his reference. The only reference he gave. A student of a professor who is unnamed.
Except that I also.
Layperson.
I put up the National Academy of Science, right?
We do.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go on.
Did you see my citation on the screen of the National Academy of Science declaring that evolution is a fact? Right? National Academy of Science says evolution is a fact. Right. Done. Won. Me.
You won. You honestly think you won?
Absolutely, yes. He had to read.
What does delusion mean? Do you know what delusion means?
It's almost religion. That's.
You need to actually understand the science.
That's when you refuse.
You need to go back to in between us.
Hang on.
That's when you refuse to admit
That's harsh.
that a belief that you have is wrong.
I'm in between.
That's harsh.
So, and I appreciate that what you just said there. That final comment is okay. So, with that definition, then you could say that evolution or Darwinian evolution is susceptible to falsification of some sort.
No, we have to be very specific about what. When you say I don't want to. I don't like using the word Darwinian because if we understand that we're not talking about Lamarck, then we don't need to mention Darwinian.
Right, okay, so let's just say evolution.
Right, we're done. We've distinguished it from Lamarck.
For the sake of
so we understand there's the one and only theory of evolution.
Let's just say that.
Regardless,
no
okay.
Yeah.
So we understand that works.
Yeah.
We understand this process works.
Yes.
And there are myriad different ways of verifying various aspects of it.
Yeah, but you know what? My only issue with that articulation.
I'd be happy to prove it to you. What?
No. My only issue with that articulation is that when you use the word verify, what comes to my mind is verificationism, right? So this is, which is one of many ways of.
Do you want to believe something that is not evidently true? Well, no. Yes, obviously you do. So never mind. That question doesn't work. I don't want to believe things that are not evidently true.
Can I ask you a question?
Because if it's not evidently true, then it's probably false. And I only want to know things that are true.
I understand what you're saying, but what I wanted to ask you was, what is your standard of truth from an epistemological perspective? So you've used the word verification. The question really is, what are the acceptable standards of truth? Yeah.
All right. So you're not a Christian, right? So the Christian comes up to you here, holds up the Bible, says this is the absolute truth, right? Do you accept that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is it not true?
Yeah, but the Bible.
Right.
So
Why is it not true?
I would go about trying to show.
Why is anything not truth?
Why is anything not truth?
Yeah.
So okay, that's a good question. Right? For me personally, I would say from an epistemological perspective, there are many ways of finding out the truth. One of them is intuitionism. So axiomatic reality is that we are, for example, that I exist, right? Okay. So that's something that I can't really prove from a logical perspective, but I can from an axiomatic perspective, self-evident to say that I exist. So intuition.
And Hume also argued that we have to make this assumption because it is madness if we don't.
So yeah, intuitionism is one way. I would say another one is...
So what you're saying is you're going to determine what is the truth. It's not because somebody says it's the truth. You have to find out whether it is true.
But let me finish my ways. Okay. Right? So I said that you can either do it, you can either intuit it. So in other words, it can be something intuitive like the existence of man. It can either be something which is logically reasoned, like for example from first principles. And I would put underneath that or next to it mathematical truths.
Okay.
Right. So I would say mathematical truths are also something which can be proven if you put things together.
One way or another, regardless of the categories. You're finding there are ways to find out what is true, right?
And I would argue that you can do that.
The important point there is that you don't call it truth if you can't show that it's true.
Absolutely.
Would it be dishonest to claim something as a truth?
Yes.
It's not. Right. So that's where I draw the line. I may believe something very strongly, but I won't say it's the truth unless I can show that it's true.
Right.
Because I think it's dishonest to do otherwise.
I'll be honest with you, Aaron. I believe that our conception, because I know that you might. Sorry, I apologize. Can I stand there? All right. Sorry, I apologize. I understand that you might.
And I'm going to have to go quick. But.
Yeah, I will make this very quick. So I understand, Aaron, that you might have encountered a lot of Christian fundamentalists and things like that. I want to say from an Islamic perspective, our conception of God, Allah that you got on your shirt, right, is completely different from that of the Christian God, right? In that it's not triune, it's not Jesus being, God or the Son of God and so on. So what I would say is that, bearing that in mind, and bearing in mind that our understanding of God is an incorporeal, immaterial, one necessary being, it's independent, I would say that can be proved from first principles, Aaron. And I can prove that to you right now.
That you can prove God exists.
Yeah, from first principles. And I'm not saying God exists in the vernacular, once again, thinking about...
Okay,
any
and yet
particular
there
God.
are all these eminent philosophers who are atheists. How is that possible?
No, it's possible that people can believe in false beliefs, right?
Yeah,
Just because people believe in atheism,
It's
doesn't mean
definitely
true.
possible. People, I'm talking to a Muslim. Yeah, of course
Yeah,
it's possible.
well,
that people have
anyone
false
can make a
beliefs.
claim, right? You have to ascertain.
By the
it.
way, I want to invite you to something, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I do a semi-regular video series where I read a few surahs of the Quran.
Right.
I write a blog post of my impression of them. I'm only a third of the way into the book, right? And then I have a video hangout with a number of, up to this point, they've been mostly ex-Muslims. I had one believer. And they correct me on what I got wrong, because I don't know anything about the hadiths.
Quran, all right, no
I read the
problem.
tafsirs as much as I can to try to get,
No, I'm happy to assist with that.
All right.
Yeah, and I'll give you my number before you leave. But
Well, I'm about to leave. So.
No. Just listen. I want to say one thing, and then you
Okay.
can kind of challenge it if you want. What I was going to say is, do you agree that there are contingent things in existence, things that depend upon other things for their existence, and things which could be arranged in any other way?
No, I'm not sure of that.
For example, right? You're wearing a T-shirt. The
Okay.
T-shirt that you're wearing it depends on some kind of material, and it could be rearranged in any other. It could be blue. It could have been green or yellow.
Okay.
Right. So those things are in existence. Contingent things, possible things are in existence.
Contingent possible things
Yeah.
are in existence.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
If it's possible,
Now
I guess it's possible.
here's my postulation. My only postulation today. My
Okay.
postulation is that it's impossible for there to be a world where there are only possible things in existence. And I'll tell you why, how I reason that. I reason that.
I disagree with you. there,
Josh,
bro.
we can talk about it afterwards.
No, but I want to hear your reasoning.
Well, you don't have to agree or disagree. Look,
I want to hear your reasoning. I want to hear your reasoning.
You already believe in a God, right?
I do, but I don't think that argument's
I bet
good.
he's not
No,
gonna
but I
convince
wanna-
you.
yeah,
It's-
but I wanna
you
hear-
don't have to believe it's good, Josh. I'm speaking to Aaron, if you don't mind. So what I was going to say was, the reason why only possible things cannot be in existence is because you have the absurdity of dependent things depending upon dependent things ad infinitum. And so you have compounding dependency. In other words, there's no necessary reason for anything to come into existence in particular. So in other words, my postulation is as follows. My postulation is that there must be a necessary being through which all other dependent things, all other contingent things, depend on in order for there to be any existence in the first place. Now, here's my question to you.
If you say there must be a necessary, well, that's
Yeah.
a tautology. That's necessary, right? There must be. But you haven't
How
shown
is that
why there
tautology?
must be. And you also said
That's
there
not
can't be a world where there are only possible things.
I'll tell you why.
That's implying that there's
Yeah.
a world where there are impossible things.
No,
which obviously is
absolutely
impossible.
not. So, okay, you've got three categories, right? Absolutely right. You've got impossible things like a squared circle, which cannot be in existence. We agree with that, right? Me and you agree. A squared circle
Okay.
cannot exist in the real world. Then you have things which are contingent, things which are possible, things which could have otherwise been differently, or which, if you take out of creation, the creation doesn't collapse. These things are dependent things, they're contingent things, all right? Then you have, and this is what my postulation is, you must have a necessary being that puts all other contingent things into existence and through which it can depend on. Otherwise, you have the absurdity of dependent things depending upon dependent things ad infinitum. Now, what I'm saying is, as simple as this, right? From my perspective, I could not imagine, it's not possible. I would say it's logically unfeasible from a epistemological perspective for there to be a world with only dependent things. Can you explain how there could be a world with only dependent things? And first of all, that's first
Yeah,
question.
I don't see it as that. I mean,
Yeah.
even when we have the symbiosis, there's an evolution to get there. So
Right,
it
right.
doesn't always start out that way.
Right. So what I'm saying is no problem. So would you agree with me that there's a necessary existence that puts all other possible things into existence?
No,
Why not?
because there's no indication of it.
No. There
Or
is. Do
possibility
you know what
of
the
it.
indication of that is?
What?
Do you know what the indication of that is? And let me tell you what the indication.
Obviously not.
Right. So say, for example, let me put this in mathematical terms. Say you have a series.
You're not going to help if we go there.
No, you don't know, right? So you say you have a series, and in that series you have possible things in that series. Possible one, possible two, possible, or call it dependent thing, contingent thing, whatever you want to call it.
Does this argument work on you?
Excuse me,
Forget
are you
it.
talking about the mathematical object of a series?
Yes,
Because
like I
I've
said.
just studied this.
No
What is
problem.
this, sorry?
A series.
A series is what Okay, why are you saying there are possible objects in a series?
No,
There either is or there isn't.
No, let me explain to you. I'm using a cosmological example, right? Which is an example which makes reference to the universe, but putting it in a mathematical term. I'm not saying, right?
Right, I study physics, that's exactly
Very
what I
good.
want
Oh,
to
no, that's good. So what I'm saying is that, for
I can go
example,
out now.
Aaron, listen to me. What I'm saying is, it's very simple, right?
If you have a number of false premises, then you're going to get to a false conclusion. That's what I'm reading so far.
Okay, so premise one, impossible, or let's say postulation one, impossible things can't be in existence. A squared circle can't be in existence. Agreed?
Okay.
Agreed, all right.
Impossible means impossible.
All right.
Okay.
A possible thing, like for example this hat, it's got NY on it, right? Sorry, is it?
Show my bald head, man. What are you doing?
Right. It's
Do
got
you see this guy? You want to pull a hat off his head?
New York, right? Now this hat could have had on it LA. Yes? It could have had on it LA, right? It could have been a blue, it could have been a green hat. Now so in other words, this cap that he's got on his head is a possible contingent thing. I'm sure you're aware of this argument, right? Okay,
I'm just wondering if it's going to go
So it didn't have to
Now,
exist.
and yeah, it didn't have to exist, right? Now, a necessary fact is 2 + 2 = 4. Agreed?
Okay.
Because that fact, 2 + 2 = 4, could not be any other way.
Well,
Some
not with the axioms we've got. If we changed axioms, it could be.
All right,
I'm
but we're
glad
not
there's a
changing. We're not
physicist
changing
standing
the
next to me
axioms.
because that's the only person who would
No,
say
no,
otherwise.
we're not changing. We could go to Godel, we could go to and that. But for the sake of argument, we're saying 2 + 2 = 4.
Okay.
Unless we want to really make this an absurd argument or go crazy.
Okay.
Is 2 + 2 = 4 is a necessary fact. So in other words, it's eternally going to be 2 + 2 is always going to be 4.
Okay.
Right. So a necessary fact is something which could not be any other way.
Okay.
In the context of existence, what I'm saying is that you have possible existences and you must have a necessary existence. Because if you have only possible existences, which could be any other way, then it's conceivable that this world would have been any other way. This
There
universe
are
could have been any other
billions
way.
just within this galaxy, and there are
right.
billions
So there
of
must-
galaxies,
there-
so every other way is probably out there.
Oh, perfect. So you're agreeing that this universe could have been any other way.
No, I'm saying that there's all kinds of variations.
Yeah, right. So you agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Mohammed, even if your argument works, no, but I'm saying even if your
Can you
argument
allow?
works,
Okay, we
Yeah,
can talk about
that's the
Christianity
argument.
later.
I'm saying even if your argument works, there's a gap between a necessary being and God. So even
No,
if you
not for me.
No, but I'm saying even if you establish,
For you, bro.
even if you
'Cause
establish
you're
there's a
Christian.
necessary.
No, that's the thing.
No, I'm not saying Christianity. I'm saying theism.
No.
I'm saying even if you say there is a
Can we talk
necessary
about that?
being.
Can we do one thing
No,
at a
but I'm
time?
just saying the
Because we're
argument.
talking to an atheist.
No, but I'm saying just because I just want a clarification.
Yeah.
You can establish the necessary existence of this being, okay?
Right.
But that doesn't mean that there has to be that being has to be.
We haven't
identified as
done
God.
that yet with him. So can we
But
do
I'm
that?
saying the properties of God
No,
doesn't
no.
come
But
from
we
what
can
you
have
say.
that's a separate discussion.
It would be an
Josh. We can have
unfortunate side effect if you're trying to prove God to an atheist and you're deconverting a Christian in the process.
that. Yes.
You know, I just think a good arguments for God's existence, and I don't think the ontological argument's good. That's what I would just say.
That's fine, bro.
So I don't
That's
think it's a strong
fine.
argument.
But you understand. Now, the point I'm making to you is, if you have a world of only possible existences, nothing.
Which, of course, that's
nothing-
the only thing you could have.
No, you can't have that.
But no, you can only have a world of possible existence, because obviously
Okay.
you can't have impossible existence.
No. You're juxtaposing the word possible with impossible. I agree with you. You can't
I
have.
think that's correct.
Aaron,
And I think
we
there's
were-
a third category called necessary.
Yes, yeah, exactly, right?
But, I mean,
Yes, go ahead.
apart from mathematical truths,
Yes.
which
Yes.
are only true because we've got a logical system of axioms we've built up, what do you consider a necessary
Thing.
True.
All right,
Thing.
excellent. So that's a really good question. So we said 2 + 2 = 4 is a necessary fact. It will always be 2 + 2 = 4 eternally, right?
But why do you call it necessary?
Necessary because it couldn't be any other way.
Well, not in the, it's
not what-
definitionally that
What's your
way.
name? What's your name?
Julia.
Julia. It's not
Well, that's
what
what he's relying on. He said
So,
you can't have
by
a
the
squared
way,
circle, so
it's
he's
not-
doing everything by
This
definition.
is not what I call it. This is what Leibniz called it. It's what Gödel calls it. It's what Avicenna calls it. It's what Farabi calls it. Everybody said it calls it necessary existence. So it's not, I'm not calling it anything. I'm just bringing it back
Do you
what's in the
understand
literature.
that, regardless of the names you throw out,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
anybody that you might have read, you have to understand the argument and be able to convey that argument. So it doesn't matter that some other people
Well,
said
I've
that.
written a book on it actually. It's called Kalam Cosmological Arguments. You can buy it if you want. It's actually a bestseller now in the atheist section. It's overtaken God delusion. So I think I have actually understood the argument.
Okay.
It's been peer reviewed as well.
Well,
You can
I'm not
check it out.
understanding the argument.
No, no.
He's not understanding the
That's
argument.
not my,
Are you
that's not my
understanding
fault.
the
You're meant
argument?
but you're meant to be an atheist specialist.
I'm
You're-
meant to be?
Right, right. So if you
Okay.
don't understand the argument, you're one of the figureheads of new atheism.
Okay.
If you don't understand the argument, then there's only one thing I can do is I can try and relay the argument. But it's not
mean
not my
this is
fault that you
gonna
don't
keep
understand.
going?
No, let me say it one more time. Let me make it as easy as possible, right? say you have a phone. This is a phone, okay? Yes?
Okay.
Okay, let me make this as simple as possible. Is it dependent on something? It's dependent on charge. I have to put the charger inside, yes?
Well, the existence of the phone isn't dependent on charge.
Not the
it's
existence
functioning.
Yeah, the functioning. We're just good, excellent. Thank you for that.
Does this get any better from here?
Yeah, it does. You have to be patient. Because
I'm losing that. I should have gone already.
Aaron, if I was listening to something you're saying, I was trying to get what you're saying, right? We all have to be patient with each other for learning to take place.
Okay, you had time then?
All right.
I had time then.
Aaron,
Okay.
this phone has charge in it.
Okay.
If you put, it requires a charger in order to be charged. Now, say for example, I connect this phone to another phone, yes, with a wire. I put this phone to another phone, on a wire, right? You got this phone, another phone, in a wire, right? And then you got that phone with another phone, the wire. So you got 3 phones, right? You have 3 phones. If you have 3 phones, what will eventually happen to the functionality of the phone? That the charge will run out. Would you agree with me?
So what's this to do with necessity and possibility?
Can you allow me to finish?
No, but I'm just saying
Josh, you're just poisoning the world, bro. Everyone can see what you're doing. And you know, it's
I'm just saying, no, Mohammed, all I'm saying is,
as a Christian, you should just
we'll have a discussion. No, but it's not about Christianity and Islam. It's about what is a good argument or not. This argument,
let me make it then.
I think she clarified the point very well.
Josh, let me speak about it. Let me make the argument, and then you can judge.
I'm just saying, what is your analogy to do with necessity?
Well, let me finish. Well, you haven't let me finish, have you? If you don't let someone finish and then you say it's not good, then that's actually disingenuity. All right, so you've got 3 phones. Say, for example, all of them got charged, right? So I connect this phone to another phone and this phone to another phone. Now, what will happen if I connect all 3 of them to allow them all to charge using each other's energies? Eventually, they all run out of charge. We all agree. And the reason why is because they're all dependent. The phone is dependent. The charge of the phone, the analogy here is the charge of the phone. The charge of the phone is dependent, yes? Now, what I'm saying is, if you have a world only of limited, limited dependent things, all of them will depend upon another thing, and if this is in the context of existence, you will not have existence, because you have to have something which depends upon nothing in order for everything else to exist. Does that make sense? So in other words, in our example and analogy, you have to have an infinite power source.
What does an atom depend on for existence?
So going back to what we just said, the necessary existence. That existence.
Okay, but you haven't shown yet that necessary things aren't also possible things. That those 2 categories.
Now, what I'm saying is, what I've shown is that possible or contingent things, by definition, are dependent. A phone, this phone is dependent on another phone for charge. That phone on another phone for charge. If we connect them, right?
Yeah, but
just let me finish. If you have 3 of them, if you have 5 of them, if you have 10 of them, then they're all going to be dependent on each other. Now, what's going to eventually happen with the phones? They're going to run out of charge. What I'm saying to you is that the functionality of the phone's charge here is analogous to existence, in my analogy. And it's not a perfect analogy. You can destroy the analogy if you want. But what I'm saying is that this is my only thing that I can try and draw it closer to you. So if things which are depend upon dependent things ad infinitum, unless there's an infinite power source somewhere in the equation, there will not be any existence. And what I'm saying is that the infinite power source, if you like, or the necessary existence that we refer to is God. Now, we call it God.
What if it's not an infinite power source?
It can't be, right? It has to be.
Why?
Because otherwise nothing else would be in existence.
Okay, you haven't shown that okay.
Yeah, go on, Julie.
Do
you understand this point? Do you get it?
I get your
we
point.
as organisms all get our energy from the sun, right?
Yes, good.
So, and that doesn't have to be infinite.
No, hold on. This is a very good example. So we're in, for example, an ecosystem, right? You got human beings, you got animals, whatever you want. All of that is dependent upon the sun. Yes, the sun itself.
Which is not infinite.
It's not infinite, but the sun itself is dependent upon other things.
What?
Other suns. No, other suns, other galaxies.
How is our sun dependent on other suns?
It's dependent on the laws of physics. It's dependent upon a range of factors. Helium. If you didn't have helium, you couldn't have a sun. You have to have different. If you break down the sun, we agree, right? So the sun is dependent, and we agree, yeah?
Okay, I think the fundamental flaw with your argument is that you haven't shown that the most fundamental pieces of our universe are dependent on anything.
Are we done?
Before you continue, he understands this. Well, I just want him to fully understand the argument. He's already nearly there. What you said is that the sun is not dependent on something else, and we've shown that actually it is, right? So the whole universe now, there's only 2 ways you can go.
And none of it is infinite.
No problem. Is the universe dependent or independent?
The way that you're talking about the sun having to have fuel and helium or whatever. Okay. If I take that, then the sun is dependent on other things.
Yes, fine.
And it's not infinite.
So no, excellent.
And not necessary.
Right. So the same thing now. So what we need to have, because that chain will continue going. Dependent things can't depend upon dependent things ad infinitum. You have to have something which is necessary at somewhere in that equation in order for everything else to be dependent.
So you're telling me that you believe in a Big Banger?
Yes.
That's the entirety of your argument.
No,
you could have summed that up in a minute.
You don't have to believe in a Big Bang.
half hour ago.
No, not really, because Big Bang is a cosmology which can be refuted, as I'm sure you know, right? Many people have refuted the Big Bang cosmology. I'm not talking about the beginning of the universe. I don't care if the universe is eternal or not. I'm just saying that you've got two options. Either the universe is independent or dependent.
Did he make an argument? Because I'm not getting it.
But by the way, this is not my argument. This is the argument of, by the way, this is not my argument. It's the argument of Ibn Sina, of Leibniz, of, of Gödel, and all of those individuals. Philosophers had to grapple with those arguments. If you don't understand the argument,
nice meeting you. Thank you for stepping
Bertrand Russell
in.
had to deal with those arguments. He had to respond
Very
to it.
nice
Sorry that we weren't able to finish ours, but thank you.
That was very good.
No, thank you very much. Thank you.
So do you understand the argument?
I was very impressed earlier.
No, thank you. One question
Yeah,
after that.
Aaron, do you get the point now?
I think so. You believe in a Big Banger?
No, not really. I'm saying that I believe in a necessary existence that everything else depends upon.
Right.
And now, can you refute that?
You assume that there's.
But Aaron, you're not giving me any
source
contentions to the argument. All you're just saying that is my assumption. Yeah, that is my. I'm making a point from first principles. Have you got any refutation for it?
I don't need a refutation for it. You ended the whole thing with an assumption that was not warranted by your principles.
Which one?
That you assume there's a God.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
All right.
You believe that the power source for everything is God.
I didn't say that. What I said was just my articulation.
How much longer is this going to take?
My articulation is to be respected, right? Just like you don't want to be misquoted, I don't want to be misquoted.
All right, I'm running out of time. Can we make this quick?
Yeah, of course. All I'm saying is that it's impossible, it's logically inconceivable that dependent things can depend upon dependent things ad infinitum. All I'm saying is that
they're not infinite.
Nobody claims that.
Yeah.
Nobody claims
fundamental particles
so
don't depend on anything.
Pardon?
Can you prove to me that fundamental particles depend on anything?
Yes. They depend upon other things. Of course they do. Well, come here and you prove to me that they don't. Come here.
You're the one trying to prove something to me. The burden of proof is on you.
No. I've said, you've just made a claim actually. You said that.
I've said that.
Julia, sorry.
Necessarily for your argument, you need to prove a thing.
No, you said that particles don't depend on anything. Can you prove that?
Content over everything from your melody. Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
You said that for your argument.
Listen.
To show that fundamental particles don't depend on anything.
Alright, so here's the thing. What you and Aaron couldn't deal with is, and this is the new atheist movement, subhanAllah, the new atheist movement is crumbling right in front of me. One by one, every single one of them cannot deal with this argument. And it's not because of, by the way, I can't believe it. Like, it really, all it took was just a little bit of bringing out an argument, and the whole new atheist movement in front of my very eyes is crumbling.
Instead of preaching, make your argument.
No, I will make